Hello everyone, my name is Haven, and today I'm playing a game called Returning. So, this is one of those games where really the gameplay is the story. I've done a couple of them so far. I've done Graveyard, and I think I've done a few others. I can't think of the names, but I am very familiar with this person's work or their games. So I am excited to see what this story is about. I love the world building, and a lot of the imagery and message that the author or artist puts into these games. So, I guess with that being said, let's jump right into this. I like it here, the ocean of life I come to every day, the deep blue. My name is Xander Rybokov. I am a fisherman. Was a fisherman, anyway. I am also human, that much I know. And my final testament before my final act is to tell my story. For that, I have to go back to the beginning. We were told on the news about a heat wave that would melt the surface. That was 8 months ago. I do not know why the universe would do this to us. It is beyond my understanding. But I understand fish. I understand the ocean. Deep below, people would have a chance to survive. The government handed out a new drug that would change them, make them into something that would allow them to survive the waters. My wife and 3 children were given this drug called oxensol. I guess that's how you say it. I decided not to take it. I refused because God decided that's what I was to be. We argued about it many times over. She insisted that I should think of the children, that whatever we would turn into, we would still be a family, and that the sun could do whatever it wanted to the surface. At the time, I wouldn't have it any other. Or at the time, I wouldn't have any of it, and I threw away the drugs down into the drain. We stopped talking to each other after that. She left a few days before or after that, took my children away from me, leaving me a letter I haven't been able to open. I began fishing around this time, finding a way to feed my family. But despite everything, trying to hold it together, I went into a dark place. This wasn't a dark place where you go into it the night. It is a place of your own making. I was angry and sad that the family I had loved didn't believe that everything would be okay. I tried to assure them that everything would be okay and that the government was only trying to scare us. I'm not a scientist, but I've heard these stories, and I have never seen them happen in the 50 years I have been on this earth. If the earth was really going to burn, I didn't care. I only cared about my family. I wanted to find them and tell them I was sorry. But in this dark place, I felt only anger washed over me like the devil's grip. In my cabin, in my mind, I would be alone. I was left with only endless thoughts and questions as to why they had left me, why they couldn't respect my wishes to stay by my side. Did they buy more oxensol? Did they go to the ocean? It ate at me every day up to this point. The worst of it started when I was rotting away inside my home, holding on to a false hope they would come back to me. I was inside for 2 months before leaving. In that time, I went out to fish, bring wood for the fire to cook it. The fire would cook the trout while I stared at the cold stars, feeling nothing for me in my grief. I lived for nothing. My body was taking care of me while I continued to drown in my own sorrow. It could have been years and it would have escaped my notice. I guided the trout along the fire, holding on to some semblance of purpose, but nothing can replace the purpose of being a father. I eat the trout and I drink. I drank to forget myself in those moments, hoping the fire would take care of me so I wouldn't need to worry about tomorrow. But I would wake up only to ashes. A part of me would eventually believe that God was looking out for me, that He would want me to go out and find my family. I decided then that I would no longer swim in my ocean of grief and leave my home. So this is a very interesting story so far. Certainly the turn of events of what happened, taking a pill so you can basically live underwater. I can see why he would be hesitant of it. I mean, I think a lot of people would in the real world. People, I mean, some people would buy into anything for the idea that they're going to be safe, but then you got some people who would be like, taking these pills will help me survive underwater. Why haven't we been doing this before? So I don't know. It's very interesting so far. I took a number of supplies with me, watching the television showing a 24-hour broadcast. Return to the ocean. It is safe. Over and over again, it only made me angrier listening to it. I had enough food to last me a week. I would refill along the river if I had to. I left everything else behind, taking just a photo of my wife and 3 children. Nature could have it for all I cared. I left it and drove my Lada away from the dark place and through the forest. Okay, so we can get some context about, I guess, Lada, whatever that is. I don't know what that is saying. I don't know Russian, so I won't be able to translate it, I guess. The very first Ziguli, the Vaz 2101, was simply a re-engineered version of the Fiat 124. Produced in 1970, it went through many iterations and went on to become the most popular car in Soviet history. The Soviet Union began to explore Ladas in the 1980s, primarily to Western Europe, and they became a valuable source of foreign revenue for the Soviet government. So these cars. Okay. All right, so we're going to the forest. I convinced my family to make life possible in this place, away from the death throes of the Union before everything fell apart. Out of the love I believed she had for me, she went with me for my sake, and in nature we raised 3 beautiful children, Misha, Ivan, and Elga. I taught them all how to fish, how to live off the land. There were other things I knew, but they only brought death. They would fight like all children do. I did my best to give them an education with what schools were available after the collapse. I don't know how my parents handled it at the time. We don't speak much anymore, and they don't have much to say. My wife, Ania, was a nurse. She believed in helping people, and it rubbed off on me and our children. I remembered her family didn't think much of me when I was only just a fisherman. They were frank about their feelings about me, but their daughter stood by me, and we were married eventually. I had no clues, only places I had thought they would go to. As I drove through the forest, I had made a decision to go to her family's home, in a town not too far from my home. Hmm. I find myself once again in Tbilisi, I guess that's how you say it, where my wife's family live. I don't come here often, and for good reason. I went through the streets and found nobody. I found it somewhat strange at the time. Did everyone take the drug? I truly did not know. Her family never thought much of me, and I thought they had hidden a deeper feeling of hatred due to my past. I tried to bury it all, not out of guilt or shame, but because it became too much to bear. I was still left with a feeling of longing, as it was like I had forgotten, but not the pain. Her father had a powerful position in Parliament. I didn't read him often because of our differences and how distant he was towards me. He believed I should have hope for more in life beyond my own position, but his daughter was enough. His wife believed him more. Ania loved me all the same. That's what I had felt. She was the only fish I held on to. Eventually, I found my way into her parents' house and looked inside. So let's see what this is. Tbilisi is the capital of the country of Georgia. Its cobblestone old town reflects a long, complicated history with periods under Persian and Russian rule. Interesting. Okay. I would love to visit that place. I wonder what that'd be like. All right, so we're inside now. Old but well taken care of, bigger than my cabin could ever be, and admittingly a lot nicer too. The large house was decorated with the history of a proud nation, one of many in this country or continent. It also had the feeling of another history that was recent, one that most of these people wanted to forget. Thinking on it when I went their house to look for more family, perhaps my presence reminded them of that history. Before the collapse, I wasn't able to find anyone else here, not even her parents, but I found a letter beside the master bed. I feel like the story is a little all over the place because I get confused where I'm at because he's talking about like the collapse, like it just recently happened and his family left him. But then he talks about how he was with them after the collapse. I'm a little confused, but I'm kind of following a little bit. Maybe it's just I'm stupid. I don't know. Maybe it could just be me, but I am having a little bit of trouble following it. But I'm trying, so I'm trying. The letter was addressed to Levan Burz Burids Bert's, I guess that's how you say it, Anya's father, or Ania's father. It was in their native language, however, which I wasn't able to read. Okay, so I guess they provided the translation for us. I don't know why if he doesn't know what uh if he doesn't know what it says, because how could it matter to us story wise? But I don't know. We'll figure it out. I took the note with me in case I could figure out what it had said later on. Oh wait, is this the translation? Oh, this is interesting. Father, my husband is in pain, and I know he loves me. Please, in your heart, know that I'm with him because I see good in him. I love you, Dad. Hope you understand. So interesting. So she did it because she joined me because she believed in me. Interesting. I took the note with me in case I could figure out what it had said later on. To my shame, I never did take the initiative to learn the local language. I lived far enough from their society that I felt no desire to. And Nia was able to speak mine, though. She tried to teach me, but I wasn't interested. The children, on the other hand, learned from her, and would sometimes say phrases or words I couldn't understand. There was nothing there left for me. I sat down and helped myself to their cabinet. I helped myself to some cha-cha. I'm sure they wouldn't mind if they didn't know about it. I tried to think of a few other places to where they could have gone, which would go on for a long time up to that point. I headed back outside and saw the signs. The words were plastered all over the sky. Return to the ocean. It is safe. I was aghast with confusion and shock. Why were there words written in the sky? I thought to myself. I then began to hear noises, human noises almost. Then I heard a different sound, something I knew would be trouble, something that sounded like a siren. Is it Siren Head? It got louder as I felt it was coming towards me. I couldn't see it, though. I thought I was going crazy. I knew that I had to run to get away from the noise. I also continued to hear more noises from people I couldn't see. I couldn't pick out what they were saying along the way. I bumped into something while running from the siren. It felt like a person I couldn't see. It made a loud noise, like it was telling me to watch where I was going. The sirens were becoming more distant. I would then make my way into the metro. That was interesting. I ran past the walls, plastered with drawings I couldn't understand. I did see a red star on it, giving me terrible flashbacks of my younger days I will not speak of. I could hear other footsteps coming not too far behind me. I couldn't see any of it though. I assumed I wouldn't be able to see anybody again until I saw my wife and children. I ran down onto the tracks with what I thought were empty trains, and I ran as much as my body would allow. The footsteps were disappearing, but something else was coming. The train. Ooh, that's not good. It was fast approaching me, following the course that I was on. I had to get out of the way, and fast. Came across a sidewalk with rails I could get onto before it ran me over. Now that I was safe, I watched the train pass by. There was no one there at all. I couldn't wrap my head around what was happening. I still had the photo of my family to hold on to, and I could see them as clear as day, so that was something. I thought about those signs I saw in the city. I didn't have anything else to go on, other than returning to the ocean. I walked for a good while through the subway, taking out some water and something to eat. By the next platform, I made my way up. I couldn't hear the sirens anymore, but I didn't want to wait around to be sure. I walked up the stairs and made my way out of the metro. Turned out I was in another part of the town. I was still in Tbilisi, and I needed to get out of here. I couldn't feel that they were coming for me. A part of me was scared of what would happen if I waited. I looked over at the wall with a newspaper attached to it. It looks beautiful. The headline had showed a picture of me. It showed me walking along the street. I don't know who took it. Maybe it was someone who knew me. It read, all right. Manhunt. Authorities have issued a nationwide search for an alleged suspect responsible for a string of murders. The names of the victims are being withheld from the public until further investigation is conducted. The name of the suspect in question is Xander Rybukov, a Russian man who had been reported to be in the city capital. Anyone who can identify this man is encouraged to go to the authorities. Interesting. I kept to myself when I had to visit the city. When I took my family, it was only for their education. I don't know what I did to get their attention. I had to find my Lada and head towards the coast, where the ocean would be. I traced my steps and kept a low profile. I believed that the rest of the population went to the sea, given the drug I had home. But I couldn't understand why I was hearing the noises of footsteps or sirens. Could they have been ghosts? Eventually, I found my car and drove through the town. I then began hearing the sound of sirens once again. The still cars began to move, with no one inside of them. It was like being in a city of ghosts. Was God punishing me? I thought about all of this while driving my way out of the city, following the country road. I played the radio for some sign that I could still hear someone else's voice. It sounded like some local music I wasn't familiar with, but it was enough. The photo remained the same as far as I could see, except for one small detail. Its color. It looked like it was fading away. It was still clear, their smiles, their beautiful faces. I prayed to God that it wasn't a sign of me forgetting them. I changed the station eventually and heard a voice speaking my language. I began to listen to the man's voice. This is very creepy. Okay. Dear comrades, our victory over the West has been swift and decisive. A lot of blood has been spilled, but the new Union will heal all wounds. The Western powers that were once our enemies are now under our control. Their land is now ours, but the nuclear fallout of major cities will have to be addressed, and relief will be carried out, and people will recover. May the Lord shine our way, and our Union forever fly. Whoa. I understood every word of that, or every word that was said. I was shaken to my very core. How did this happen? How long was this going on for? While I had hid away from the world with my family, the shadow of my past had re-emerged, stronger than ever now, and it's cast over the West. I don't know if my land suffered from the resistance, but I know that the damage would have been more devastating to the new Union's enemies. I do not know, and I don't think I ever will know. My family is all I have left, and I must find them. I found a gas station and made a stop. It seemed deserted, with cars and trucks collecting dust. I went into the store that seemed empty and took a bottle of coffee-flavored beverage and saw more newspapers showing my face, but there was another picture that I recognized. It showed the Oxensol drug. The paper showed a photo of the bottled prescription of Oxensol, a drug that changed people into something else. It reads, okay, so once again, my ignorance of the language prevents me from reading it. I only know two things from this. People are looking for me, and the drug is still out there. Changing people, turning them into something we're not supposed to be. I don't think that's the case. Oxensol controversy arises. Oxensol is an amnesic-inducing prescription, helping people forget memories that are painful, but recent reports have shown that the prescription has side effects that have led to devastating outcomes in families that have complained about their children forgetting everything about themselves. The Oxensol prescription is undergoing a thorough investigation by the New Union's Health Committee. For the meantime, the prescription will be on hold and usage of it will be prohibited until further notice. May the Lord shine our way and our Union forever fly. Oxensol. Okay, I left the store and on my way out, an alarm tripped. I didn't see anyone, and I couldn't afford to wait. I ran out fast, heading back to my car, driving away and continuing my journey towards the coast. So I'm very confused. Is this all is he in some kind of drug-induced psychosis? It's very interesting. The end of my story is approaching, and my time driving along the coast in all those months, were mostly a blur. I go into my pocket, looking at the bottle of Oxensol that's empty. I threw the pills onto the road. I see the photo again. My wife and children are still there, but it is almost gone. God helps me remember where they are. They all are in the photo. The radio told me more about the state of affairs in the new Union during my drives. The West is falling in line, and soon enough, most of the world. I'm just glad I won't have to be a part of it when I find my wife and children. This is interesting. I remembered the letter I found in my home, the one my wife had left me. If I was this close to finding them, then I needed to read Aunt Ania's letter to hear the truth. So I guess we're going to read it now. There is no date on the letter, but wait. Okay, yeah. There's no date on the letter, but it was in my language. I needed further proof that she loved me. What I saw was unimaginable. I couldn't let her and the children know what people were truly capable of. I didn't want them to live the rest of their lives knowing what I learned in the war, but my wish to inoculate them from the truth only drove them away from me. But I'm close to being with them again, to ask for their forgiveness. Dear Xander, I guess supposed to be no. I know you've sacrificed so much for your country, and I know that the war changed you, broke you. Every day since your return, I see a look in your eye, like you're still over there. I waited for you to open up to me, but you never did, which is why I'm going to get help for you. But this also means I have to take the children away from you too. I don't want our children to see the part of you that's still on a battlefield. My family will make sure that they're looked after and that they grow up to be beautiful, healthy children. And I will be away too, until you get the help you need. Know that I will always love you. The man I married is still in there. Don't let my father tell you otherwise. Take care of yourself. Wow. Okay, even now among the pier, I have my bait and I cast it. My pole is rusty and my control needs practice again, but I get one, and my stomach continues to growl. I collect some wood and cook it over once again. 6 months ago, I watched the sky and prayed for answers, prayed for my family, but I haven't gotten an answer since. I must be patient. Tomorrow, I'm going to go into the water. I'm going to return to the ocean, where it is safe. For now, I get some sleep. I dreamt that I was a fish among many other fishes in the ocean. I swam with one like me, with 3 smaller fishes. I felt cold like the night, but I was happy. For everything the Red Star took from me, what it put me through, they failed to rob me of my freedom to find happiness. I ran away from it all to this other place. I told my wife I wasn't interested in learning the local language, but now that I'm here, those memories become more questionable every time I think about them. The memory of my homeland is still strong. I understood the broadcast, the man's voice on the radio, the signs that were giving the answers all along. It became a nagging reminder I couldn't shake. If the ocean is where I'm meant to be, so be it. It's time to wake up. Time to complete my reunion. Okay, well, I don't know how much further this is, but it's starting to come clear now. I think, anyways. The fire was gone. God protected me again. Sounds of sirens came ringing into my head again, like a bad alarm clock. I didn't see any vehicles approaching, however. Was God warning me? Still unsure, but I ran and left everything behind but the photo and Anya's letter. I made my way down to the beach along the shore. The sirens became louder like before in the city. I wasn't a fisherman anymore. I was a man on the run for an unknown reason. The water looked so calm, so welcoming. I couldn't help but continue to look at it. I finally saw the vehicles up along the cliffside. Perhaps they'd been tracking me all this time. I knew I couldn't make a run for it back to the car, and the beach would eventually reach the end where it was nothing but water. Then I heard the voices. Daddy, Daddy, we're here. It was Misha, my sweet girl. Papa, we're in the ocean. Ivan's voice. He sounds almost like me. You came to us. Your children missed you. Ania's voice called out to me. I saw them all again, all three of them and the love of my life, waiting for me. They wanted me to join them. My face wept with tears of joy. The pain and sorrow these past 6 months were but a distant memory. They began to sink down in the water as I moved towards them. I hear shouting coming from somewhere. I finally saw them, figures running towards me, but they were too far, too late. I was with my family once again, and I would return to the ocean, where I was safe. I sank down further. My family grabbed my hands and pulled me down, and we sank together. News reports. Ooh. I wonder what happened. The 6-month hunt for Russian fugitive Xander Rybakov has ended tragically. Authorities found the man on the ocean floor while our law enforcement officers were pursuing him. He was wanted for the murder of his wife and 3 children while living in Russia. Wow. I kind of figured that. I felt like something wasn't right, and I think that's what it was. Russian and Georgian authorities worked together to apprehend and arrest Mr. Rybakov, and the victim's parents also worked closely to determine his whereabouts. Xander Rybakov was a former Soviet soldier. He was eventually discharged, although a case of mental instability was reported for medical examination. The source was never named. Authorities are now searching for Mr. Rybakov's parents, and the body will be returned to them, authorities have confirmed. The Georgian people can rest now that the story ended without further loss of life. In other news, the United States and Russia have begun talks of opening rehabilitation projects in North Africa. Other countries have been urged to contribute. Whether this will turn out to be a win-win for the continent remains to be seen. Let's take a brief break and come back with the news. Interesting. So it was all in his head. All of it. That is crazy. So, that was returning. Very interesting. So the guy think that the nuclear war happened, or at least he was in a state of shock, like mentally, that he thought a nuclear war happened and that Russia took over the world, essentially, and that some cities had nuclear fallout and blah, 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 and that there was this drug that everybody was supposed to take so that they could return to the ocean because the sun... Yeah, okay. Interesting. Really well told story. It kept me guessing till the end, but once I started putting the pieces together, I knew where we were at, and I liked it. So, this was Returning. If you guys want to play it yourself, by all means, or at least read it yourself, by all means, I'll put it in the description below, and you can check it out. And I guess with that being said, I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day. Drink plenty of water, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.